Remind yourself in your offices and in your life, if you're a master communicator, then you got to make sure that you commit to the vitality track and not the cancer track. Do you remember what the difference was between those two? I'll give you a little reminder here. The cancer track is what most people do who destroy their relationships, their businesses, and their personal life. And what it is, when we have an expectation and it doesn't get met, what kind of state do we usually go into? Depressed, what else? Frustrated, angry, disappointed, disillusioned, what else? Hurt, okay? And we go into the basically emotional states that we've got patterns of going into. Most people have a disillusioned state or hurt or angry. What's the first thing most people do? As soon as they got an upset, they immediately look for somebody to lay blame on. True or false? True. And does that usually make it better, yes or no? Does that build a better team? Does that create a quality environment with quality communication and quality results, yes or no? No way. And by the way, people don't just blame, like, let's say, the doctor or their staff members. Most people do blame others, but some people just blame themselves. Does blaming yourself motivate you to really become better? Rarely. And some people don't blame themselves, they blame circumstances. Well, it's not my fault, it's because this and this and that. You know, the truth of the matter is we can always find a reason why something isn't working. But the bottom line is we have to be responsible for the results. Now, what do some people do? They go, okay, well, now that I'm done laying blame, that's not enough. I'm angry, and I need to make sure I feel justified, so they go to step 2. They justify and complain to other people. Go out there and subgroup. We talked about this before. Now, how many have seen this happen in your office amongst anybody in the last 60 days? Let's see some honest hands. How does it feel, again, when somebody, let's say, talks behind your back? When somebody subgroups, and 2 people get together and say, oh, so-and-so's there. How does that feel to you? Yeah. If you keep doing that, what's going to be the ultimate impact on your relationships? It's going to destroy them. It's going to screw them up royally. You've got to stay out of that place and promise yourself and commit not to subgroup. But if you've got an upset, who should you handle that upset with? That person directly. Third thing people do is after they get enough people, and they all say, yeah, I'm upset too. By the way, what are your chances of finding somebody else who's upset? Somebody else whose expectations are not been met. What's the chances of finding somebody like that? About 100%, right? It's called life. Then what happens? You get these people together and you sit down and resent and brew, right? And get worse and worse and more angry until finally what somebody does is usually confront somebody. And they say, look, I was honest, and they didn't respond. Confronting is not the style we want to use. And lastly, what most people do is after they confront is they give up and seek revenge. We don't want to do that. We want instead, as master communicators, to go for the alternative we talked about last time, which is the vitality track, which is where you get excited and appreciate the feelings that you're having. Where immediately you say, okay, I got these feelings, they're intense, I feel angry or upset. That's exciting. I need to appreciate the fact that my brain is telling me that I need to change something. Because we all found out last time, negative emotions are a signal. They're a call to what? Do you remember? Action. If you got negative emotions, something's hurting. What it's saying to you is you need to change either the way you're looking at this, your perception, or you got to change your actions. The way you're doing it, the way you're communicating, the way you're making requests. So if you're feeling negative feelings, you don't want to feel bad about it. You want to say, okay, this is great. This is my brain trying to give me a note. I need to get curious about what is it that I really need right now. And I need to think of what else could this situation mean. I'm really upset about it, but what else could it mean? Maybe the doctor raising his voice to me or her voice to me isn't they don't care about me. Maybe they're stressed. Maybe I ought to see if I can support that person. Maybe I need to soften the way I'm feeling about this and not say I'm devastated, but say, you know, I'm a little frustrated with the way they're treating me. Maybe I need to go and communicate as soon as possible to that person that, you know, I know they have good intent, and I'd really appreciate it if they changed their style of communicating with me because it just doesn't feel good and I want to support them. And if I do that enough and I focus on meeting this person's needs, I'm going to probably meet my needs. So as a master communicator, what we're doing is controlling meaning, and we're making sure that when we have negative emotions, we don't see them as a negative, we see them as a call to action, a chance to change.
We spend a lot of time talking about mindset from the standpoint of think positive, so positive things happen. And I do believe in having a positive mindset, obviously. I think that the actions that you take are way more important in terms of developing that mindset. But we don't spend enough time on what you were just talking about, which is understanding how the automatic nature of worrying about stuff all day long, how that is making you less money, how it is making you less happy, how it is disconnecting you from your spouse, how it is keeping you unhealthy, and how it is a habit that robs you of joy and opportunity and power. And it is one of the easiest habits to break. Number one, your life happens in 5-second windows. Number two, in 5 seconds, you can control what you think, you can decide what you're going to do, and you can change absolutely anything, which changes absolutely everything. And so the 5-second rule is a mind trick. That's all that it is. A fancy way to call it is it's a form of metacognition, but it's basically a hack. It's a cheat code.
Okay.
And the way that it works, and this is the challenge with getting it out there, is that it sounds so profoundly stupid, like a gimmick, that it took a while for people to actually take it seriously.
I get that.
And to really stack up the science to make, anybody that interacts with it go, holy shit, like this actually works.
Yeah.
So here's what it is. Basically, the moment you catch yourself hesitating or doubting or starting to worry or about to chicken out or shrink or shut up or whatever it is that you're about to do that is shrinking your power, you just go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What happens when you do that? Don't do it out loud because it'll scare somebody. Like a psycho. And I mean, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm talking. Yes, exactly. No.
My turn.
Yes, exactly. Although, I say it's so simple that people use it with their kids.
This is a Saturday Night Live skit in the making, right?
Totally.
I can see this.
I would love that because that means I've really made it.
True.
Your kids will use it on you. So my kids will use it on me. So if I have a certain tone that comes out, I'll hear my 12-year-old go 5, 4, 3. Watch that tone, Mom. Or Mom, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I thought you were going to go to the gym. Yes. So by counting backwards, the kind of cheat code that you're doing in your mind is you are interrupting what are called habit loops that get encoded in the central part of your brain. And you are starting up the prefrontal cortex. It's a little trick that causes focus, and it's a lot like having a mantra because you're shifting gears. But the thing about having a mantra is, and I suppose that as you count backwards more and more and more, you become used to it, but it becomes a habit that triggers action. So what you do is go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cut off this part of the brain, awaken this part of the brain, and then move. And what happens with the counting backwards is there's nowhere to go after 1. And your mind is socialized in a countdown situation to go.
Yep.
And so counting up won't work because you can keep going
forever.
and you do it in many aspects of your life. So it's actually not something that requires any focus.
The game of business is an infinite game, right? It obeys all the rules. There are known and unknown players. You don't know all the competitors necessarily in one industry to another. The rules are changeable. We haven't all agreed what the rules are. And there is no winning the game of business, right? The game just perpetuates. In fact, the game of business has existed longer than every single company on the planet today, and it will outlast every single company on the planet today. If you look at the Dow Index of 30-something odd companies that make up the Dow Index, something like 70 or 80% of those companies are 35 years or younger, right? So it gets me thinking, if you listen to the language that companies use, they don't know what game they're in. They talk about being number one. Talk about beating their competition based on what agreed upon criteria, based on what agreed upon time frame. Is it market share? Is it profits? Is it revenues? Square footage, number of employees? Over what? 1 month, 5 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, the life of the company? I haven't agreed to those rules. And so companies can arbitrarily declare themselves number one in anything they want if they set the standards and the time frames. And the only reason we do these things on an annualized basis, we tend to compare ourselves to other organizations annually, is only because we pay taxes annually. If we paid taxes every 18 months, that would be sort of the standard. But again, we still haven't agreed what the metrics are to be number one. That means the companies that are playing the infinite game are playing against most of the others who are playing the finite game, means those finite companies find themselves in quagmire. Almost Every single bankruptcy, not almost every single bankruptcy is a company that's run out of the will or the resources to play. They drop out of the game. The game will persist. Another company will fill their space. It's not like the business stops or the industry ends. And the companies that are playing the infinite game will frustrate those finite players, which I absolutely adore. So I spoke at an education summit for Microsoft. I also spoke at an education summit for Apple. Now, I would say about 70 to 80% of the executives at Microsoft spent about 70 to 80% of their PowerPoints talking about how to beat Apple. At the Apple Summit, 100% of the executives spent 100% of their presentations talking about how to help teachers teach and how to help students learn. One was obsessed with their journey, with their vision, with their cause. The other one was obsessed with their competition. Guess who's stuck in quagmire? Guess who's frustrated by their competition?
Let me tell you, in order to have something different, you are going to have to do something different. In order to have something more, you have to do something you haven't done yet. I had to say the things I didn't want to say, do the things I didn't feel like doing to have the life I know I wanted. Period. Period. And all I did was give instructions for here, do this bite size, do this bite size, do this bite size, digestible, palatable pieces of what you can do. Does that sound good, you guys? And when you look up, and you don't have to have a magnificent change over 12 months, have a small change over 30 days, and then a small change over 30 days, your breakthrough will come in needlepoint moves. And you'll look up in 5 years and not recognize your life.
Follow your passion first. First. And when I retired from the game, I sat there asking kind of all the wrong questions. What's the biggest industry I can get into? And it's all the wrong stuff. And you got to sit there and ask yourself, okay, what am I truly passionate about? What do I enjoy doing? And when you feel that way, honestly, you feel like you have never worked a day in your life. It's the most fun thing in the world. You get up in the morning excited about what you're doing. And you got to be really honest with yourself about it. If you wake up in the morning and you're dreading going to work, do something else. Right. Do something else. And those are hard decisions to make. But when you make those decisions, it's a very liberating experience. And you find out that the rewards will come.
To your reaching your dream, your living up to your greatness, your making your contribution is you. If the economy is good, fantastic. If the banks are loaning money, that's great. If people are positive, that's great. You don't have any opposition, that's great. But the major key to your making things happen in your life is you. When I wanted to get on public television, they told me, you can't do that. So wait a minute, I've seen these other people on. It's possible I can get on. Leo Vizcaya, John Bradshaw, it's possible. Wait a minute, excuse me, hold on, time out. Let's be realistic. Come on, be logical. I said, well, wait a minute, why can't I do it? Let's look here. Think about guys who have credentials, all kind of credentials. You don't have any college training. They're not going to put you on television. Give me a break. I said, thank you for that. And went on about my business. You hear me? Let me tell you something. What people think about you and the possibilities for your dream is none of your business. That's their business. They have no imagination, ladies and gentlemen. They're living out of the past, out of their memory. Their attitude is it can't be done because they haven't seen it. They're judging according to appearances. The people that are going to make it in the future, the people that are making it today, let me share something with you. History is being read, but it's also being written by people with imagination. So I went to the next mode necessary to start talking to people and seeking and asking for what I wanted and leveraging relationships and trying to find out how do the people do it that went ahead of me? How do they do it? And then what is it I need to do? How is it I need to train myself, to develop myself? What's the resources that will be required in order to make it happen? And as I start seeking out and asking questions, I started running into people who said, I know someone who can help you do that. And they helped me get connected with those people. Remember, we have so much energy that can take us so far. It's necessary that you hook up with some other energy that can take you to the next level. I hooked up with them. They said, let's go. I said, away we go. It's necessary you take responsibility for it, that you make it happen, that you don't give up, that you don't take any objection or disappointment or defeats personally, that you keep on keeping on, that you don't decide that I can't make it because you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, that you realize that's a part of the program. And here's something you've got to resolve. Say this to yourself every day. See, as long as you're breathing, you got a shot at your dream. That's the way I resolve. Say this, please. It's not over. It's not over till I win. Not over till I get through. It's not over till I get over. Not over till I get what I want. Door can't open today, look out. I'm going to come back and take the hinges off. That's how you got to do that. You've got to have that kind of courage, that type of determination. If you want to make it happen, it's you. That you've got to take personal responsibility to make it happen. That you have got to own what it is that you want to do. If it's taking care of your well-being, if it's making a difference in our school system, if it's working with senior citizens, if it's to protect our ecology, if it's to create an economic renaissance, if it's just to take yourself to another level, it's you. You've got to make that happen. We can point out many things that can make it inconvenient or can slow us down, but ultimately, it's on us. Next step is, not only is it possible and necessary, and it's you to live your dream, to make this greatness that you have within you become a reality, but what I've come to appreciate when you're working on changing your life, changing some bad habit, getting out of addictive situations or relationships, or working to build a dream or making a difference in our society, or learning something that's very challenging. Here's what I realize, ladies and gentlemen, and develop a great deal of respect for. It's hard. Easy is not an option. It's hard living. Life is hard. See, it's hard when you are 49 years old, been working on a job for 17 years, and they come in and tell you you're finished and give you 1 week severance pay, and you got to start all over again. It's hard when you're married and raising children, and your children are crawling, and your husband dies unexpectedly. It's hard handling just the tragedies of life. It's hard when you're working on something and you put everything you have in it, and it doesn't work out. You lose your money and other people's money. It's hard. It was rough when I lost my job, and I could not find a job. It was humiliating and embarrassing, borrowing money, and then I couldn't pay the money back when I told them I would. That's rough. How people look at you, how they respond to you. It's very hard. It's humiliating. Here's what I discovered that happens to you in life, that you will go through things, and while you're going through them, you can't understand why it's happening to you. But after you go through it and you get back and you look at it and you say, oh, now I understand why I needed that lesson. Have it ever happened to you? Raise your hand. Has it ever happened to you that I couldn't understand it then, but after I got through it, then I saw that was preparing me for bigger and better things. That as you go through the challenges of life and you look at it and embrace whatever comes to you, don't run from it. Step toward it. Don't try and duck it like most people do. See, most people want it easy. See, easy come, easy what? Easy go. See, but when you go at what you're going to deal with and you deal with the difficulties of it, when you handle those hard things close at hand, making those hard decisions right now that you don't want to make, learning those things that you don't like to do, but you know that in order for you to get where you want to go, this is one of the hoops that you have to flip through. And I'm saying to you, whatever you got to do it, because if you don't, life is going to whoop you until you surrender and say, okay, all right, I cooperate, okay, I learned, okay. It had to wear me out a long time. So if it's hard, then do it hard. Now, how do you hang in there during the hard, difficult times? Les, you must have faith. You've got to believe in yourself. You've got to believe in your abilities. You've got to believe in your service, your company, your ideas. Unquestionably.
Sometimes you just have to believe in yourself. Nothing can be achieved until first it's believed. You have to believe it to see it. Sometimes the easiest way to get what you want is to just start, to just take that first step. You can do and be anything that you want, no matter what you've been told and conditioned to think growing up. Start from today to believe that you can. We know what we want, but we don't do anything to actually go and get it. All the while that you're standing around waiting, doubting yourself, telling yourself you can't have this and you can't have that for whatever reason, you're never going to get it. Focus on how your life will be better and what your life will look like when you get what you want. Greatness isn't achieved by that one massive thing you do. It's those tiny little consistent baby steps we take every single day that add up to achieving that goal. Amazing things happen when you believe you have something. Your brain actively goes out to make it happen. Believe that you can do it and work hard to get it, and it's yours. We are all born with the same amount of time in a day, and anything that they can do, you can do too. If you want to do something bad enough, you can get it.
I need you to believe. Because I can be up here speaking and up here sweating and up here crying and pouring my heart out to you, but if you have the mindset like nothing is ever going to change. Like some of you, when they was doing that play and they was doing that skit, some of you felt it. Some of you was like, wow, they sharing my story. But there was still a little voice in the back of your mind that said, yeah, but that's not really going to change. Or yeah, it's easier said than done. No, listen to me. Hear me loud and clear. Your mindset, your belief system is everything. And it is so powerful. And so I came all the way from Atlanta, Georgia to tell you, you were not a mistake. You were not an accident. You were here for a reason. I know you're going through some hard times. I know life at times might feel rough or you might feel weird or things might be frustrating, but it's not going to always be like this. Your condition is not your conclusion. There is so much more that's going to take place. There is so much more power that's inside you. If you make up in your mind, I choose to believe that I can do great things. And I want you to seriously think about your life. Like, think about where you are internally. We have a group of people in here. Some of you, you're struggling yourself. Some of you are just trying to get by. You got so many pressures on you. You want to make your family proud. You know what I'm saying? You want to get good grades. You want to make people proud. But then you also have friends and you want to be cool in their eyes and you want to kind of fit in there. And then some of you are in a really weird place. You feel like people don't understand you. You feel like you're having a hard time to connect with people. When you wake up in the morning, you feel like you're in the slumps and you feel tired and drained. Like, I get it. I've got a message for you, right? The people, those of you that's looking for acceptance from others, you're going to have to make up in your mind and say, you know what, whether you accept me or not, I'm amazing, I'm smart, I'm beautiful, I'm talented. Because if not, if you live for their acceptance, you'll die from their rejection.
What I know now, that when you don't fit in, when they don't like you, when they don't respond to you, when you're on the outside of the curve, when they don't appoint you, pick you, vote for you, celebrate you, when you're not in it, I wish I knew then what I know now, that God does not want you to fit in. He doesn't want you to fit in, because if you fit in, when you get to the place where God is taking you, somebody will try to take credit for you getting where you are going. But God doesn't want to share his glory with anybody. He doesn't want nobody else to try to take credit. When you get to the place where God is going to take you, can't nobody get credit but Jesus himself.
What is rejection? What is rejection? Rejection can be defined as the sense of being unwanted. You want people in your life to love you, but you believe for whatever reason that they do not, nor will they ever. You never, maybe you didn't feel the love of your mother. She was always there, but always interested in something else. Or maybe you never felt the acceptance from your father. He gave you his name. He gave you a place to live. He gave you food to eat, but he never gave you his time. He never gave you his interest. He never gave you himself, because he was always interested in something else. He was an absentee father. Reason some of you feel rejection is that you were in a storm with your husband or your wife who betrayed your wedding vows, who was unfaithful to you. They left you for someone else. It is a deep wound in your soul that has never healed. Divorce was bitter. Divorce was vicious. It left you with a wounded spirit. Some of you feel rejection and resentment because you were passed over for a promotion at your job, or your business partner destroyed your business through deception. You do not know the anguish, the heartache, the horror that a person sitting next to you has been going through, or the person sitting in front of you, or the person sitting behind you. You do not know the anguish of their heart, the torment of their mind, the tears that have ripped down their cheeks and fallen into their pillows because of the desperation of their soul.
The Bible says that God gives us beauty for ashes, that he heals the brokenhearted.
I have a dream. The 4 greatest words that this country has ever heard or seen. Because a man with a dream is unstoppable. A man with a dream can go to destinations that nobody has ever seen. A man with a dream can reach a star that no one has even come close to reach. Because a man with a dream is unstoppable, and the dream is his destination, and the fuel is his passion, and his skills, and his abilities, and his gifts, and his talents is his vehicle to get to the destination of the dream. And so the only thing left for a man to get to that place that nobody would believe for him to get is just a little bit of faith. Because a little bit of faith mixed with a big dream produces something that can change the course of history, that can change the course of humanity. You see, it's so important for one to find their dream. And many people know that, but not many people can find it. Because the thing is this, a dream finds you. A dream finds you. A dream finds you when you get to the place that you know that every place that you have been and where you're at right now, and the way that your mind works as it is now is still not quite where it needs to be. So you see, the thing that you need is growth, 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 growth in your mindset, growth in your emotions, growth in your self-control, growth in every single response and your responsibility, your ability to respond to every suffering and every pain and every struggle and every single step that takes some sort of added effort, added discipline, added passion, added fire to keep going, to find your stride, to find your rhythm, to find your breath, and to find your dream. I have a dream. It's 4 words in the heart of every man, woman, and child. And that's why freedom rings in that dream.
When you know within yourself that there's something you want to do, and I believe that all of us were born with a purpose, that all of us have something that we are supposed to do, that all of us have some goodness within us, and that goodness gives us a responsibility to manifest our greatness. And when you know that, you can feel it in your guts, and you know that you're deliberately operating below your potential. You've gotten comfortable. You stop expanding, you stop stretching, you stop challenging yourself. Let me share something else with you. Not only is it possible for you to have your dream, but it's necessary. It's necessary that you have it, that you work on it, that you develop yourself, that you go for what is yours in the universe. You decide, I'm not going to settle for this. This is not going to be it for my life. I deserve more than this. See, that will start making you do some stuff. See, a lot of people go to work every day miserable, and all they do is just talk about how miserable they are. But they don't do anything about it. You must have faith. You've got to believe in yourself. It's possible that we can have our dream. Yes, it is. Other people have done it, then we can do it. We fail a lot of times. Well, a lot of other folks fail. That 18-mile wall, then you know it's like done and you're on automatic and you glide on in and you know it's there. You know you're going to get to the finish line. And we've all had experiences where we were working on something and we knew it was possible. And we did those things that were necessary to bring it into reality. We took the responsibility to make it happen. Other people couldn't see it. A lot of people didn't believe it. You were attacked. You were criticized. People were opposing you, but you kept on doing it. It was hard. It was rough. It was difficult. But to you, it was worth it. And eventually you got to a level you know, can nothing stop me now. I'm on the move. I'm on the move.
As Kurt Vonnegut, one of the greatest authors in modern times, said, "When I write, I feel like an armless, legless man with a crayon in his mouth." But he still did it. And that's the kind of thing that you're going to hear from the greats. You're not going to hear that it was easy. You're not going to hear that they felt suave and cool. Even the greatest of all time have that awkwardness and that clumsiness. They're never quite as good as they want to be. But what I want you to understand is even though Kurt Vonnegut said those words, he wrote tons of books that changed people's lives, that changed the landscape of literature, because despite the fact that he felt awkward and clumsy, he kept doing it and forcing himself to move forward, to take one step after another, even when the process was not exactly rewarding. He believed in something. He knew that what he was trying to do would ultimately get better. He knew that if he wanted to accomplish something great, that he had to push through the awkwardness. And that is the very trick to getting great. You just have to do it. You have to go. You have to take that first step. You have to push. You have to drive. You have to strive every time to get a little bit better. You have to strive not to fall prey to your own doubts and insecurities. And as Joe Namath said, if you aren't going all the way, why go at all? But it's doing that in face of the fear. It's doing that in face of the difficulties. It isn't only because someone is great that they say you should either do it all the way to play hard or go home. They're not saying it because the process is in and of itself rewarding. They're saying it because there is something that they're trying to accomplish that demands it, that they're prepared to play on a world stage. And once you know why you're doing what you're doing, once something sits at the core of your being, and despite how difficult, painful, awkward it may be to push forward, you push forward no matter what the odds. And as Hannibal said, one of the greatest military leaders of all time, I will either find a way or I'll make one. And he said that as he was getting elephants across the Alps. Now, when you think of the difficulties that you face in trying to do what you're trying to accomplish, think about that man amassing an army and getting elephants to climb a mountain. And saying not, this is impossible, but rather, if there's not already a way present, I will make one. And when you can look at that, when you can look at your own inadequacies, when you can accept that you are not yet good enough, but you know that you'll put in the work to get there, you know that you'll learn the things that you need to learn, that you will push and you will practice and you will shape yourself into someone capable of doing it, and you have to literally carve your own path out of the stone granite of a mountainside. You will do that because that's what your goals demand. And when you're prepared to do whatever your goals demand, you will accomplish whatever you set your mind to. As T.E. Lawrence said, all men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their minds wake in the day to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act on their dreams with open eyes to make them possible. That, at the end of the day, is the very mission of my life, to get people to understand that there is a difference between dreaming and executing, about doing something based on the things that you want to see happen in the world. But most people hit that moment of action and they stop. But they don't stop knowingly. They stop for 1,000 different reasons that they're never able to put their finger on. They stop because they're tired. They stop because circumstance dictates. They stop because they don't have enough money. They stop because they're too young. They stop because they're too old. They stop for a whole host of reasons that at the end of the day are total bullshit. The thing that stops them is fear. The thing that stops them is a belief that they don't even know they have, that says that they're never going to accomplish. They stop because they can't muster the belief in themselves
to move forward, to believe that their actions will have the consequences that they want, to believe that they can learn the things that they don't already understand, to believe in themselves that their actions will generate a reward. And that reward is very simple, that you can close your eyes and imagine the world that you want to create and open them and create it. And some people are stopped by something even more dangerous. They dream too small. And as David Ogilvy said, don't bunt. Aim out of the ballpark. Aim for the company of immortals. When you can do that, when you can allow yourself to dream at that level, when you can allow yourself to believe in yourself, to believe in your ability to become the kind of person that can swing for the fences, not only swing for the fences, but make contact. To be able to call your shot like Babe Ruth and knock it out of the park. When you can look at yourself and have the arrogance of belief in yourself that you are capable of that you are worthy of being remembered, that you are worthy of people knowing your name, then you will strike out and have a chance at greatness. But it starts with that. It starts with being willing to believe that all the people, the wall of humanity that stands behind you in the past, none of them have anything that you don't. And the only difference between the greats, the only difference between those who are remembered and those who are forgotten, is the willingness to step up to the plate and call their shot.
Dream. That's a powerful word. You'll get knocked down many times chasing your dreams. You will feel like you don't have the energy to get back up. You don't have the strength to get back up. You will feel like giving up is the only option. When you're hit, when you've been knocked down by life, that's when it's time to hit back. That's when it's time to hit back. Many people get hit by life, but they never hit back.
Are you going to stay down, or are you going to decide to get back up? It takes courage. It takes confidence. It takes a strong mindset to get back up when nobody believes in you.
There's a lion inside all of us, but some people decide to never let that lion out. Many people keep that lion locked in his cage. Are you hungry for that dream? Are you willing to fight for that dream?
Let the lion out. Get hungry for your dream. Go hunt your dream. Talking about that dream won't take you far. Working will.
Doubters will tell you to be realistic. Haters will tell you to quit.
You are the only one who can go and get it. It's your dream. No one will chase it for it. No one will hunt for you. No one will support your dream but you.
Thank you so much for watching till the end. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments section. Please also like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and families. Please watch our other motivational videos. Thank you again.
So it's vitally important to discover, first of all, that there is a voice in your head that indulges in self-talk most of the time. And for many people, interestingly enough, that self-talk, for many people, is not always negative, but for many people, it is more negative than positive. A good event that happened yesterday, you might have gone to a nice reunion, or you went out into nature and you witnessed a beautiful sunset. Okay, you can remember it today and think that was a beautiful sunset, or we had a nice talk yesterday. But you can't do that much thinking about a nice event. But the mind, when there's something negative that happens yesterday, somebody offended you, or didn't give you the attention that you wanted from him, then you can start thinking of how, oh my God, what he did, he's really, next time he does that, I'm going to say that, or he's really shown, why doesn't he, you can go on for a long time dwelling on something negative, much longer than dwelling on something positive. It is so seemingly a negative event is much more food for useless mind activity than a positive event. And this is why for many people, a significant percentage of their mind activity is negative. For some people, it is almost 100% negative, but it is unlikely that these people would get a job in this company because your predominant state of consciousness, your predominant mental emotional state, there's a certain correlation between who you associate with, where you find yourself, and even what kind of things happen to you. There is a correlation which is not always immediately recognizable, but there is a correlation between a person's predominant mental emotional state and who they are with, who their friends are, where they work, and even what happens to them. So if you are in a very negative state a long time, you tend to attract also negative events, but you can only have to find that out for yourself. I'm not saying believe me. I know it from my own life because when I first discovered this, I was still very young. I discovered that there is a correlation between my mind activity and what happens to me. I found a book and several books that somebody left with us when I was 17. And there for the first time, I read about a person's mind, and I suddenly realized my mind was predominantly negative because I was a very unhappy child. And so my childhood was not pleasant. And so the initial conditioning of my life was that my mind was continuously commenting and saying how bad my life was. And whenever something bad happened to me, I had a phrase that would occur again in my mind that, of course, bad things always happen to you, don't they? They're bound to happen to you. It always happens to you. So I was talking to myself and saying that bad things would always happen to me, and they did. So you can discover first that the spiritual awakening is to discover that there is continuous mind activity.
Well, the first book was called Extreme Ownership. And what that means is you're not going to make any excuses. You're not going to blame anyone else. You're going to take ownership of whatever happens. And when something goes wrong, instead of pointing fingers and blaming someone else, you're going to take ownership of that problem. You're going to take ownership of figuring out what the solution to that problem is, and you're going to take ownership of implementing that solution. So that is the number one thing that I'm looking for a leader to do, is to take ownership of the problems. And again, we called that extreme ownership. And it was one of those things that was very easy to see in a SEAL platoon, because when someone doesn't take ownership and starts pointing fingers and blaming, well, like for instance, right now, if I started pointing my finger and blaming you for something, what's your natural reaction going to be?
You get defensive, get upset. I mean, it's not my fault this broadcast isn't what I wanted it to be.
Exactly. And then what happens is we have a team where I'm pointing the finger at you, you're pointing the finger at someone else, and now we have no one taking ownership of the problems, and therefore the problems never get solved. The opposite of that is when you have a good leader that steps up and says, hey, Ben, you know what? This broadcast didn't go the way I wanted it to. I should have done a better job preparing for your questions. I'm sorry, I apologize. And now instead of you getting defensive, you say, you know what? No, actually, I could have done a better job. And now both of us are taking ownership of the problems, and we're going to get them solved. If you're blaming everyone else, I can't control you. I can't control these other things outside. I can't control. The only thing I can control is me. So instead of worrying about who else is causing you problems, worry about what you can do to yourself to improve your station. And if you go down that path, you're going to find you have a lot more control than you think you do.
How do we make good decisions? Well, number one, making correct decisions. You got to study. You got to know and understand. You got to know the background. You've got to know the historical outcomes of equivalent type decisions that have happened in the past, similar situations. And if you know the history and you know the background, then you can use those to assess the current situation you're in. And then once you assess the decisions that you can make, assess the possible actions that you can take, and then assess the outcomes that those decisions will have, those actions will have. And when you're doing that, you also have to assess the possibilities of inaction. So a lot of times people forget that one. They don't know if they should do A or B. What they forget is there's also, what if I don't do either? What's going to happen? Sometimes not doing either is good. Or a lot of times not doing either is bad. So you got A or B. What should you do? Maybe sometimes you got to pick A or B. Sometimes, occasionally, it's better not to do anything. And you wait and let the situation develop a little bit more. So the point of this is whatever you can know beforehand, you know. You learn, you study, you understand, you know the standard operating procedures, you know what variations have been made on the standard operating procedures, and that's how you go forward. As leaders, I see people getting caught up all the times in little things that will not affect some white belt below them in the chain of commands going all crazy, grabbing their sleeve, and this leader on the top gets concerned about it and puts time and effort into something that doesn't matter, whether it's a little personality rub, a little ego uprising. It's like, should we do it this way or should we do it that way? It doesn't matter. That's a little sleeve grab. It doesn't matter. And I see people getting caught up on things that don't matter all the time. And what I've realized is it's something that I figured out a long time ago. I don't know when, but a long time ago, I figured out, you know what? That thing doesn't matter. I'm not going to worry about it. That thing doesn't matter. I'm not going to worry about it. That thing doesn't matter. I'm not going to worry about it. That thing matters. I'm going to focus on that thing. And that makes a big difference. It's leadership capital. Because if I'm investing my leadership capital and getting your hand off my sleeve or trying to do it my way instead of your way or trying to keep your ego in check, if that's what I'm investing my leadership capital in, I have nothing left to invest in the thing that actually matters.
So what I meant by that is every day we're seeing who we are as people. When I was growing up, I lied for people to accept me because I didn't accept myself. So I would make up stories so then you would accept me into your world. I would, everything I did was for someone else to like me. It wasn't until I started reading my own book about how pathetic I was as a human being. I could blame my dad, I can blame kids at school, I could blame having health issues, ADD, my mom not being around. I could blame a lot of people, and that's the book I was reading. And I put it off on everybody else. It wasn't until I said, you know what, for me to fix this, I gotta read what the fuck is wrong with David Goggins. Not blame anybody. Read my book and say, okay, I'm afraid of my shadow. How can I overcome that? Go in the military, get your ass kicked, do things you hate to do. Be uncomfortable every fucking day of your life. Roger that. I'm not the smartest kid in the world. Okay. Instead of somebody saying, oh no, you're smart. No, don't say that to yourself. I said to myself, no, I'm a dumb motherfucker. Okay, roger that. How you get smarter? Educate yourself. So the things that we run from the truth. We're running from the truth, man. So the only way I became successful was going towards the truth. As painful and as brutal as it is, it changed me. It allowed me to become, in my own right, who I am today. The first ultra marathon wasn't smart at all. So basically what happened was, I was at military free fall school with Morgan Luttrell. Marcus Luttrell, if you guys don't know, was the lone survivor, the guy. He was in a bad op went bad. He was the only Navy SEAL that lived. Long story short, you gotta get the book, read Lone Survivor, great story. Morgan is Marcus Luttrell's twin brother. And I was there with Marcus. So what happened was myself and Morgan were in free fall school. At the same exact time, Marcus was in the worst incident in SEAL history. So I knew that Marcus might be dead. He wasn't dead, everybody else was dead. So I actually brought Morgan, I actually told Morgan, hey man, your brother was in a bad incident. I don't know if he's alive, I don't know what's going on. Long story short, Marcus is alive and I go on to want to raise money for families. All these guys died, they all had kids. I want to raise money for the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. It's a foundation where 100% tuition goes to these kids to go to college, full tuition, whatever. So I found this great foundation. I'm going to raise money for it. So I said, you know what? I have to Google something that's evil, something very hard. I knew nothing about ultra marathons. I hadn't even run a marathon. I knew nothing about this world. So I Googled the top 10 hardest races in the world. And what comes up is a Badwater 135. It's a 135-mile race through Death Valley in the summertime. I thought it was a stage race. I thought it was a race where you run like 20 miles, set up camp, barbecue outside, and then go run some more the next day. So I called the race director up at the race and said, hey, Chris, his name is Chris Kosman, I want to do your race. So we had a long conversation. You know, I was much heavier then, and I hadn't put running shoes on in over a year.
How heavy are you at this point?
I'm around between 240 to 270.
Whoa.
I'm in there. I'm in that range. My weight has varied a lot through the SEAL teams and out of the SEAL teams, so I was a heavy guy. But the long and short of it all was I hadn't put running shoes on in over a year. I was a big-time power lifter. I lifted weights heavy. That's what I did. Right. I got back home from Iraq, went straight to free fall school, and then this happened. So I called Chris Kostman up on a Wednesday. He says, look, man, the only way you can qualify for my race is to run 100 miles at one time in 24 hours or less. There happened to be a race that Saturday, so 4 days later. And he said, if you qualify by running 100 miles or less in 24 hours, I will consider you my race. My goal was 100 miles. So I got to mile 70, and I cleared 70 miles in like 12, 13 hours pretty quickly. But I was done.